30 seconds and counting. Team.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. We're continuing our build up to the draft as we continue our coverage of all the Houston Rockets draft prospects. We are going to continue our breakdowns of the prospects in the late two picks, 23 and 24. And there's a plethora of prospects you can go after in this 23 and 24 range, and so we're breaking it down position by position. A couple days ago we released our point guard breakdown, which if you want to watch it, it's going to be in the top right hand corner. And today we're going to continue with the shooting guard position. Again, same with the point guard. Like we said in the beginning of the video, the guards are the deepest position that we have on our team right now. We have so many guards on the team right now with John Wall, Kevin Porter Jr., Eric Gordon, Armani Brooks, Kyrie Thomas, TJ Augustine, among others. In terms of just the number of players that we have on the roster, most of them are guards. And so if the Rockets were to take a point guard or a shooting guard in this draft, it would probably be because they really like what that guy has to offer and his potential, and they don't want to miss out on the opportunity. Just a little disclaimer before we get into the video as far as, the situation of the Rockets roster right now as far as their depth at the guard position. But with that aside, let's get into the prospects, starting off with Jaden Springer, a 6'4" freshman out of Tennessee, who's been compared to Marcus Smart. He is an absolute straight scorer who can get it done from anywhere on the floor. He handles the ball well under pressure and does want the ball in his hands with the game on the line. He's a closer. He's going to be a guy who wins you games when it matters most. He has good strength and good explosiveness. He plays low to the ground and has good lateral quickness. He's a very, very good attacker to the rim, and he does know how to finish pretty well, although he isn't the best efficiency-wise at the rim. He's a very, very good shot creator for himself, and he's absolutely lethal in the mid-range game. He uses his strong frame to shield the defender and find room and create separation for his shots. He brings energy and intensity on the defensive end, hence the comparison to Marcus Smart, who, again, we know him as a super high energy defensive-minded player, and he really does take the challenge on the defensive end personally and does do everything he can to try and lock up the guy who he's guarding on the defensive side of the ball, and really does get after the person who has the ball in their hands.
And Jaden Springer, an amazing prospect, but when you look at his stats, they don't really seem eye-popping. That is because he did come off the bench when playing in Tennessee. He was backing up Keon Johnson, who is arguably the second or third best shooting guard next to Moses Moody and behind Jalen Green. So off the bench, he was still able to put up 12.5 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 2.9 assists, 1.2 steals, and about 2.4 turnovers. He also did shoot at 46.7% from the field and 43.5% from three. So a very, very good shooter, and even 81% from the line. He has his fundamentals set, his foundation set, his whatever all the techniques set for shooting. He knows how to get the ball in the basket. That's one thing that we know how he does. And again, like mentioned before, he brings a lot of energy on the defensive end. If you want to see pros to his game, he's a very decent scorer off the dribble, as well as he also excels at scoring on off-ball motion plays. So he's able to score both on the dribble and off ball whenever he has the ball in his hand, or if someone else is creating the shot for him. He knows what to do. He knows how to read defenses in order to get open, in order to create separation. Whatever you need to do to score, he can do it. He's an adequate shooter and can even post up smaller players. He is 6'4", but if he is being guarded by smaller players, he doesn't mind taking it up into the post and a turnaround fade away or something, whatever to do to score on these smaller players. He is also a fairly good playmaker. He is a two guard, so he's not forced to have the ball in his hand all the time, but when necessary, he knows when to have the ball in his hand and what to do with it. He's also an adequate rebounder for his size, a decent defender, and a solid athlete in general.
And again, with every prospect, they don't always have a perfect game, right? They always have cons, and Jade Springer is no exception. he can be reluctant to take outside shots, despite him being a very, very good shooter. He's not always the most willing to take the outside shot, and he's not the best as far as his quick first step, and he doesn't have the best shot IQ either. He can go a little bit wild on offense. This relates to his questionable shot IQ. And again, another thing relating to that shot IQ is his turnover level, 2.4 turnovers to 2.9 assists, and can also be prone to fouling on the defensive end, maybe a bad byproduct of his energy on the defensive end. But again, that's a problem that can be fixed, and you probably would rather look at his energy on the defensive end is more valuable than the fouling, because the fouling is something that you can fix with time in the league. I think that's definitely something that can be fixed. That's not something that I'm really concerned about in Jaden Springer. I think if he can fix these issues, he's going to be a very, very good NBA player. And more likely than not, he's going to come off the bench for us, which I think is advantageous because he already came off the bench in college, and that prior experience will make it easier for him to transition if he does get drafted by it, instead of, most of these guys who were usually starters or stars in college having to transition to come off the bench. The fact that Jaden Springer is a bench player for Tennessee, I think makes it easier for him to sort of fit seamlessly with us if we do take him.
Right, and now, great prospect in general. But if we want to look at another great one, it is Cam Thomas, also 6'4" and a freshman from LSU. He has been compared to a Lou Williams type of player, just a straight bucket getter. Cam Thomas is such a smooth, skilled player, and he just makes it look effortless, just like Lou Williams. And he can, with the fact that he can score in bunches. Some players just have a knack for scoring, and Cam Thomas is definitely that kind of player. During his freshman season at LSU, he did average 23 points per game on only 40% shooting from the field and 32.5% from three. The percentages aren't great, and that's also due to the shot selection, but he was, he was the primary ball handler as well in LSU, so he did have to just score it that way. He's a 3-level scorer. He's really good at getting his own shot, whether it be from the mid-range, taking it all the way to the lane. He can finish with floaters and creative layups. He's got a very quick first step, and he puts his head down and drives the ball hard to the rim. A little undersized, but well built and a high-level athlete with a good motor. At this point, he's not the best of playmakers, averaging just 1.4 assists, but definitely has a lot of room to improve on.
Yeah, and with Cam Thomas, his counting stats in his 1 year in college: 23 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 1.4 assists, a little under a steal a game, and 1.7 turnovers. Efficiency-wise, not the best as far as from the field and from the three-point line. He shot 40.6% from the field and 32.5% from three. He was a very good free throw shooter though, where he shot 88.2% from the line, which is incredible for a guy who hasn't even made it to the league yet. But one little asterisk to his inefficiency is that at LSU, they didn't really have the best coaching staff. They didn't really run a good offensive system. It was more just running through the stars. And so because of that, it was a lot of just putting the ball in Cam Thomas's hand and saying, get a bucket, instead of running a play that would allow him to get a high quality shot. And that is one of the reasons why he isn't, the most efficient player in this group of prospects that we have. But there's no reason to believe that when he is in an NBA system which runs proper motion offense, allowing him to get more high quality looks, there's no reason to believe that he can't be at least average efficiency wise. And again, this is one of the reasons why people are still optimistic on him despite the poor efficiency. But there are also a lot of other upside and pros to Cam Thomas, one of them being that he is a pretty good scorer off the dribble. Again, with a shooting guard, you don't always need them to be super good off the dribble for them to be elite, but in the modern day era where positions are kind of pointless now, they're more just labels instead of actual role descriptions, it's good to have a guy who can sort of expand beyond the expectations of a traditional shooting guard, and that Cam Thomas can do. He is a pretty good scorer off the dribble. He is a pretty good mid-range shooter as well. He's very good at drawing fouls and making fouls, He is a pretty good ball handler, again, especially for a shooting guard. These guys aren't expected to be the best ball handlers, the best scorers off the dribble, but he can do both of those. He's a very good off-ball player, and he is an adequate defender and a pretty above-average athlete. Not the most athletic prospect that we have here, but he is still a pretty good athlete.
Right, and it really shows like Cam Thomas could definitely be a value pick to any team, whoever he picks out or whoever drafts him. But as well as with all those great pros, there are some cons to his game. He does need to improve his outside shot a little bit, mainly with his shot IQ and, not just hoisting up questionable shots. And, at times he can be have a little tunnel vision when it comes to on offense, being too focus on scoring on offense rather than trying to help his team through whatever means necessary. He's not an elite rebounder, and he is also a little undisciplined defensively, but again, that's nothing that a team with veteran presence and discipline cannot help. And also, a lot of people are saying that he's a point guard because that's kind of what he had to do in LSU with the ball in his hand a lot. But he's not a true point guard. He is a little undersized, but he does fit the description of a shooting guard better. And yeah, with our next player, it's a little different than these other guys. This guy's a senior coming out of Oregon, Chris Duarte, and a lot of people have him consider him as like a light version of Klay Thompson.
And again, Chris Duarte, his main concern is his age. We'll get into that later on. But again, just breaking down Chris Duarte in general, he's a bigger guard at 6'6". He's a little bit taller than most of the other prospects and just a little bit bigger in general, not just in height, but also in his frame. He's a bigger guard with a very good looking 3-point shot. He does a good job moving around the perimeter until he can get an open look. And then once he gets that open look, he does hit it with very good consistency. He's a solid defender, so he has that ability to become one of the 3-and-D wings, which are so valuable in the modern day NBA. We're seeing guys around the league, Robert Covington, just one of the examples of all the Robert Covington, Jay Crowder in the finals right now. All of these guys who really do thrive as 3-and-D wings. And Chris Duarte is another one of those guys. He has the ability to get his hands in the passing lane and has good defensive IQ. He runs the floor hard and plays with great energy. Again, that's another thing that is super valuable in the modern NBA. He is very very sound in all of his fundamentals, and his main skill is his 3-point shooting. He does, again, like I said earlier, have the part of a 3-and-D wing at the NBA level. Now, looking into his counting stats here, again, his main concern is his age. At 24 years old, he is significantly older than all the prospects in this group and also just in the draft class in general. But he did average very good counting stats in college with 17 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, and 2.7 assists, and very good efficiency, 53% from the field, 42.5% from 3-point line, and 81% at the free throw line.
Right, Duarte is definitely one of my favorite prospects looking into it. His age is a little bit of a concern, but it also just shows how NBA ready he is and how little he needs from others to, influence his game. He can come in and be a guy who can just make a difference right away. He's a very solid shooter. He's a very good scorer off the dribble as well. His thing that a lot of people see is that he excels at the most is his off-ball motion. He knows how to read defenses in order to get past them, create separation and space between him and a defender, which is an amazing skill to have. That's why a lot of people consider him like a light version of Klay Thompson, as Klay is known to doing the exact same thing, just running through the defenses, getting open shots, and hitting them at an absurd rate. He's also a fairly good playmaker and a decent rebounder for his size. 6'6", solid shooting guard wing size, and he can also defend decently enough that he's also going to get a lot of steals. Hence, he's a 3-and-D wing, and he's also a solid athlete and has a really good motor as well. Just the cherry on top, really one of the most well done in NBA prospects out here. However, there are a little backlash, not great things to his game, and that includes a little bit of a lack on of having an elite first step off the dribble. He also can play a little too wildly on offense when he should really focus on defense as well. And he can also struggle to guard quicker players. He's not the most fastest, not the most mobile. So when he is guarding quicker players, they will get past him at times. And then, as we mentioned before, he is a little older for these draft prospects at 24 years old. So he's not going to have as much upside as some of these younger prospects.
And again, Duarte and this next prospect probably on complete opposite ends of the spectrum here as far as just both their player style and also their age, as we went from looking at Chris Duarte, who was one of the oldest prospects in the draft, to now one of the youngest prospects in the draft, which is Joshua Primo, a 6'6" freshman out of Alabama. Josh Primo is a big-time shooting guard with amazing physical tools and an emerging offensive game. His frame at 6'6" with a good leaping ability and the strength to finish at contact is one of his selling points. Although he's not the most consistent shooter, he does have the ability to get hot from beyond the arc and has shown the promise to develop into a good three-point shooter. Again, his age, let's keep that in mind. He's only 18 years old, so he has plenty of time to develop and, reach his maximum potential. He's got a soft touch and a knack for scoring the ball. He's very, very young. Again, 18 years old, one of the youngest prospects in this draft, and his upside is very, very tantalizing. As a long, athletic athlete, he's got all the tools that the scouts are looking for, even if his game isn't completely polished yet or entirely ready for the league. Primo is a versatile defender, and he has the ability to switch from 1 through 3. His length and agility is a problem for smaller sized guards, and he's got the size to guard small forwards and maybe even power forwards as he builds his strength and frame in the league.
Right, and Primo being a super young and raw player at 18 years old so his counting stats aren't exactly the best, only showing up at 8.1 points per game, 3.4 rebounds, a little less than assists per game. However, he did shoot it pretty well from the field at 43.1% and 38.1% from the three-point line, and also 75% from the free throw line. So he's not the best shooter, but again, 18 years old, lots of upside for whatever team wants to take a chance on him and really mold him into that player that they want him to be. If we look at the pros and cons to his game, he's a very decent shooter, also a decent scorer off the dribble, and just like as mentioned above, Chris Duarte, he does excel on off-ball scoring motion plays. He's also an adequate playmaker, can play make to his teams, and also an adequate rebounder and an adequate defender. So he doesn't excel or isn't a specialist in many things, but he's more of an all-around balanced player, who can, with whichever team, become a specialist in whatever needs to be done.
And again, Joshua Primo, despite just being 18 years old, has so many good qualities in him already that can be optimized at the NBA level. He's a pretty good shooter at 38% from the three-point line and a pretty good scorer off the dribble as well. So he can create a shot with on and off the ball. But he's best at scoring off the ball, moving off of screens and all of that. He is very, very good at scoring off of that. That's his specialty. And he's a pretty decent playmaker, rebounder, and defender. Again, he's not the best in any of those, but again, with him being so young at 18 years old, there's no reason to not believe that he can't develop those as he matures and advances in his NBA career. And again, he is probably the best athlete of these four that we have in this group here of the shooting guards, and that is so useful as far as finishing, rebounding. All of that is so useful. That athleticism can definitely be put to use along with all of these skills that he has the ability to develop. Again, at one of the youngest prospects in the draft, there is so much upside for Josh Primo, and again, the potential is sky high if he can put in the work and get into a situation that can make the most out of his potential.
Right, but as for his cons, since he is a very young player, he hasn't exactly made himself into a consistent shooter. He's a little inconsistent at times, and he also doesn't really have the ability to draw free throws yet. He does attack the rim fairly well, but however, he seems to avoid contact at times. So this is something that a lot of like veteran players and NBA teams can tell him, hey, when you get to the rim, this is how you can like contort your body to make it look like you're getting contact in order. It's just a lot of things that a young player really needs, like mentorship that he can really get as, again, just 18 years old. He's not an elite rebounder, however, because of his athletic ability and his size, he could definitely develop into a great one. And he also does have lapses defensively, which does cause him to be a little inconsistent alongside his shooting. Now, Joel, out of all these prospects, I have to ask you, which one do you think like entices you the most for the Houston Rockets?
I think for me, it's got to be either Duarte or Springer. I'm pretty much torn between those two. But again, both of those guys bring, for me, the favorite. I would personally give Springer the edge because of him being a little bit younger. But again, Duarte, a very, very close second. In my opinion, though, Jaden Springer is the guy who I think we should take if we do end up taking shooting guard. Again, like I said earlier in the video, guards are our deepest position. So again, the Rockets have to really like a prospect here and also have to not take Jalen Green with the second overall pick. But if that situation comes across, I definitely would like Jaden Springer on the team with one of these later first round picks.
I'm actually right there with you. I love Jaden Springer and Chris Duarte's game so much. I'm also I'm kind of a fan of Cam Thomas. He's just at least score, and I know that he would come off the bench and just be like a Lou Williams just bucket getter. He can basically be the replacement Eric Gordon. Just come off the bench for the Rockets. Just start shooting, making shots, getting hot, giving the team a lot of energy. And even with young Josh Primo, he's a raw project player that the Rockets could take a chance on. And, we have all the time in the world. No one's expecting the Rockets to really compete like starting next year. So we don't need him to just come in and be an impact player right away. We definitely have the time, tools, and facilities required to train him, mentor him with, players like John Wall and our JJ Augustine, other Eric Gordon, and other veterans out there. So, honestly, any of these guys would be like really good. But for me, I'm actually leaning a little bit more to Chris Duarte. I feel like, he also does fit the timeline of the Rockets, being 24 years old. So he's a little up there, like with Jayshawn Tate and Christian Wood. But I feel like he's the most fundamentally sound and just solid player, and we know what he can do as soon as he comes into the league for the Rockets. I'm a fan of him, but I would definitely not mind if we do get Jaden Springer.
Again, there are so many good prospects in this draft. I think our personal favorites, Jaden Springer and Chris Duarte, these guys are super high potential. It's basically a coin flip in my opinion between Duarte and Springer as far as the best shooting guard out of these four. But the other two as well, Cam Thomas and Josh Primo, they also have a lot of upside and a lot of things going for them. And you really can't go wrong, again, with any of these prospects. Like we said with the point guards, there are so many prospects to look at in this range, and you really cannot go wrong with any of them. They all have potential. They all have, things going for them, and also downsides that can be worked out if they're put in the right situation and have the mindset to work them out. And you really can't go wrong with any of them. Like I said earlier, there are so many prospects at the shooting guard position that I really do like. Again, if you look at Chris Duarte, he is such a good off-ball mover. He's a sniper, and he fits the timeline being around the same age of Wood and Tate. Springer, he's also a pretty good shooter off the dribble, and he brings a different set of skills. And again, everyone has a unique skill set, and all of these guys would do amazing in a Rockets uniform. So again, comment down below which one you would like to see on the Houston Rockets out of any of these four. Which one is your favorite? Comment down below, and we'll talk about it there. Again, our favorites are Duarte and Springer, but you might like Josh Primo, you might like Cam Thomas. Let us know why down in the comment section, and we will talk about it there. And as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And we'll see you in the next one. And keep an eye out for the small forward breakdown, which will be coming up soon over the next few days. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.